Yes, we did decide to depart from the kind of traditional formula of Prince of Persia games in quite a few places. I think it's important to point out, though, that we didn't do it blindly. It wasn't just like, oh, let's rip it up and start over because we can. It was a conscious decision. I mean, when we started conception 2.5 years ago, this was right after the Two Thrones. We knew what we had. I mean, we knew we had a formula that had legs, that had potential. You got your hero who can swing a sword and run on walls. He can run and jump and flip and fight. You've got your balanced mixture between acrobatics, combat, and puzzle solving. You've got your fantastic Persian environment. I mean, those are pillars. Obviously, we're not abandoning. If anything, I think we're embracing them more wholeheartedly than we did in the past trilogy. But at the same time, we also had certain things that we said, you know what, we don't need these. We don't actually need Sands of Time. And a lot of people said, oh my God, you can't make a Prince of Persia game without Sands of Time. And my answer is, oh yeah, watch me. Like, yes, we can make a Prince of Persia game without the Sands of Time. And we are making a Prince of Persia game without Sands of Time. We want to revolutionize. We want to innovate. We want to bring something to the Prince of Persia franchise that people haven't seen before in the pop games, in action-adventure games, or even in gaming in general. We never felt that it was the Prince of Persia. It's a Prince of Persia. There are many princes of Persia within this fantasy universe that we call Prince of Persia. This is not a guy who is going to save the world because it's his duty to do so. This is a guy who is an adventurer. He's a wanderer. When the game starts, he's just coming back from previous adventure with his donkey laden with treasure, that he's kind of scored on his previous quest, and he's heading back home to spend it all on liquor and women kind of thing, because that's the kind of guy he is. He's the sort of day-to-day kind of live life, take life by the horns kind of guy. As he's going through the desert, this freak sandstorm kicks up and he gets totally lost. And when the sandstorm disappears, he's suddenly in this oasis, this sort of walled garden of Eden, if you will, that had no rightful reason to be there. In runs this beautiful, mysterious woman, smacks into him, grabs him by the hand and says, come with me, we got to go right now. Just as they break out into the sort of heart of this garden, if you will, this oasis, they see this large tree, the Tree of Life, come crumbling down, and the god of corruption, Ahriman, escaping and infecting the entire world, all of this walled garden, if you will, with his corrupting energy, which drives out all life, all beauty, all light, turning the world into this very dark, foreboding, scary kind of place. And the quest set before the prince and Elika, and of course there's a whole story behind it, is that they must systematically go through this world, this walled garden, and use Elika's magical abilities, these newfound magical abilities that she didn't ever know she had, to drive the corruption out of this little particular area, this little bubble, if you will. And of course, if they fail in their quest, the walls of this oasis will eventually fall, and Ahriman will spread and infect the entire world. There are a lot of sort of parallels, or certainly influences in our Prince of Persia to Assassin's Creed. I think there's also a very important distinction, though, which is that Assassin's Creed decided we're going to do an action-adventure game that's going to be realistic and it's going to be very mature, and we're not going to do Sands of Time anymore. And we said, okay, we're going to do an action-adventure game that's going to be very fantasy and more sort of teen-oriented. It wasn't we're doing it because Assassins did it. We just both happened to be making action-adventure games, and both took the conscious decision to say, you know what, that gameplay mechanic doesn't have a home in the game, in the story that we're trying to tell. We are actually using the engine that powered Assassin's Creed, the Anvil technology, as our starting point, our reference point for Prince of Persia. We've been working with this technology now for 2.5 years. Obviously, there are many, many things that this technology allows us to do that we just couldn't do on the previous generation, not the least of which is, obviously, this Anvil technology is very good at drawing large, open, expansive worlds, which is, of course, one of the elements that most attracted us to this technology from the beginning, rather than having the prince run down those sort of closed corridors, or the very inorganic, very structural rooftops kind of thing from the two thrones. Now we can literally have him wall running and jumping and rebounding off of cliff faces in large sort of open, oasis type environments, because the engine is very adept at handling the sort of technical constraints and technical challenges when you're doing a large open world environment like that.